Hey everybody, it's Mike at Stone Pillar Farm. I've got a second Polyface Designs Mini Brooder video for you here after I built my second brooder. So I'm excited to show you some of the changes I made. Before I do that though, I do want to give a disclaimer, kind of a rule I have for myself, is I do everything out of that Polyface Designs book exactly the way they tell me to for the first build. I don't change anything. I use their material, their dimensions, everything. And I do that because that gives me a baseline for any changes I make in the future. They've been at it for decades, they're wildly successful, they're doing a great job, and if I just start changing things willy-nilly, I have no idea if my changes were good or bad. So you already saw in the last video this brooder here, and some points to touch on. I mean, the thing you're going to notice first is the difference in material between the two brooders. So the Polyface Designs book has you use this Zip Systems sheathing panel, and you're supposed to use it for the roof as well, but I can't find any of it in my area that's 4 foot by 9 foot like it's supposed to be. So I have the Zip System for the walls and had to go with just OSB board for the roof. On this one, what I used was wood panel siding, and it's got this cedar texture. So this is, if you have a shed at your house, it's probably got this on the exterior. It's a very common outdoor building material, and it's much more suited for the weather. So getting wet, high humidity, this is not going to break apart as quickly as like this OSB material for this roof. So that was one of the things that I wasn't crazy about with this one and how the book said to do it. But now I have one of each, and I can see how long does the different material last. So my hunch is that the exterior siding is going to do better, but we'll see. But the material properties are not the only benefit of it. So the Zip System sheathing is actually really expensive. It's about $70 for a 4x8 sheet, whereas this wood siding is like $42 for a 4x8 sheet. So big cost savings for construction materials there. And then the other benefit is this wood panel is cheaper, or sorry, not cheaper, it's lighter. So that comes into play mostly with the door when you go to lift it. So to lift this OSB panel door, I measured it with a hanging weight scale. It's like 45 pounds to lift it up, whereas this one's like 38. So it doesn't sound like a big difference, but it does make a difference, especially when you have different people maybe at your farm who need to do the chores, and you know, you've got some people who maybe don't lift as much or can't lift as much. So big benefit there. So I want you to get a good 360 view of the brooders, and specifically the second one that I made. It's got nice hinged windows so you can ventilate, and it's got hardware cloth inside so nothing can get to the chicks and they can't get out. It's got that wood paneling all around. Second door here to get inside. Really just used when you need to catch the chicks to get them out on pasture. Another hinge door here. You can open up and ventilate. It's nice to have them on both sides so you can get a cross breeze. And then in my last video, I got some questions about propane. The propane tanks I chose and how I plan to run those Shenvec heaters. So the Polyface book depicts in their design a large, like 650-pound propane tank, one of those big tanks that you would have outside your house to actually run your heating for your home. It's going to be dropped off and filled up by a propane company. You'll be on a contract for that. I didn't want to get involved with that. I don't want to be contracted to a company for them to come do that, and I don't want to be at their whim. You know, if they can't make it out and I don't have propane, I still need to be able to heat these brooders. So with these, when they're empty, they're 67 pounds, real easy to move, and they're 100-pound tanks, so when they're full, they're 167 pounds. And that's like right at the limit where I can move these comfortably without hurting myself or really straining, and I can get them into the car, down to Tractor Supply, which is like 3 minutes away, fill them up and bring them back. So if you're in a more remote area where you don't have something 3 minutes away to where you can go fill them up, it might be better for you to get on a contract. But for me, being in the location I'm in where it's super easy to do this, this made sense for me. Since these are smaller, the runtime's not as long, but what you can do to figure out for your tank and how much propane you can hold, what your runtime is going to be, is just do a simple Google search for propane usage calculator. And what you'll input is the BTUs for your burner or your heater and how much propane you have, and it'll tell you the total runtime you can get out of your tank. And then what I've done here is I've taken that down so that I can figure out, based on how much I have left, what burn time do I have left. So I average out between the settings of my burner, which on the low end is 17,000 BTUs to 30,000 BTUs. I can go anywhere from about an hour and 15 minutes on 1 pound of propane if I'm at 17,000 to 45 minutes on 1 pound of propane at 30,000 BTUs. So that averages out to like 1 pound per hour, you know, no matter how I'm burning. That's a good estimate to do some rough calcs. So if I have 10 pounds left in this, I have about 10 hours of burn time left. It might not sound like a lot since this is only a 100-pound tank, and you think, well, it's not a lot of run time, and that's going to get super expensive. What you have to consider is the Shenvec brooder heater that we're using. It runs on a cycle. So it's got a pilot light on, and when it drops below a temperature, it kicks on to whatever BTU setting you have it at, and it runs until it hits a set temperature and it kicks off. So I came out here one night when it was like 30 degrees and just ran it for about a half hour. And what I found out was at that temperature, it would be on for about 3 minutes to heat, and then it would kick off for like 6. So it's like a 1 to 2 on to off ratio of runtime. And what that means is if I only have 10 pounds in here and that's 10 hours, really that's 30 hours, because as the heater cycles, it's going to be off for 20. And again, that's at 30 degrees. So if it's warmer and the heater can be set lower and not have to cycle as frequently, it's going to be much longer than that. So let's come back around. I want to show you up on the brooder for this one. I want to get up on the platform here and show you inside. To show you some more changes I made and also just give you a better view of what it looks like so you'll know when you're building this. So another change I made is I put handles on the doors here. This is not in the designs, but I just found it so much easier to open these. So if you don't do that, you just have this really narrow lip here that you got to dig your fingers under, and when you go to close it, it's easy to pinch them. So these handles are super cheap and easy to throw on. So when you open it up here, this framing on this door, one thing I learned on my previous build is the way that they have you do this in the designs, the dimensions are correct, but they just don't leave any room for error. So this 2x2 here, and on the other side, needs to fit inside the frame. This is a 2x4 frame here. It needs to fit in. Well, the dimensions they give you, it's gonna fit exactly snug tight. So on this brooder, I did that and had issues with some of the sides sticking, not closing well. I had to get in there with the sander and sand them down. It took a while. So what I did on this one was I just bumped them in 1/4 inch on each side, and it makes it close so much easier and smoother. If you can see inside, you get a good look, especially since there's no bedding in this one. I haven't brooded in this one yet. It's just really simple 2x2 framing. And one thing I saw when I was looking on YouTube at some other videos that people have put out, one guy was saying that the dimensions that they give you in the book for this 2x4 angle for the roof here, that it's not correct. And my guess is that the angles that he cut were not right, because the dimensions are definitely correct for that. But if you have a chop saw like mine, like I have a DeWalt miter saw, that has a preset like snap-in setting for an angle of 31.5 degrees. But that's not good. You want 30 degrees on this angle, the two angles where the roof meets at the top, and this other angle on the other side at the bottom. So if you go to the preset 31.5 degree setting for 4 angles, you're going to be off a total of 6 degrees, potentially at the top. And you're going to have, instead of a nice tight fitting, it's going to be open, and you're going to think, well, these dimensions are correct, but that's not right. The book also tells you, after you've built the floor and you've built these walls up, the next step is to put one of the walls on and screw it down to the floor. I did that on the first build, and I screwed the wall down, connected the next walls to it, screwed those down, but by the time I got to the far wall, after these are all now in place and screwed down, that wall was overhanging the platform by like 1 inch. So on the second build, what I think works better is just get the walls up here, have someone help you and hold them together, and screw the walls together. Screw the inside of the frames together, get them fitted up, and don't secure them to the floor yet. So that way you can get up here, you can still move this on the 8-foot by 8-foot platform you built, and you can get it so that the overhang is consistent all over the platform, and you get a good area to secure it down when you do actually screw it down to the floor. One other little thing, it's the last thing I did that isn't in the book, and it's minor, is, you probably can't see it, but up from the floor I just measured with a measuring tape and took a pencil and I marked out 6 inches, 9 inches, and 12 inches. And that just gives me a really quick and easy way when I put my wood shavings in here and get my bedding in. I want to know where the bedding pack is at, and that's critical for the health of the birds. If you have them on too thin of bedding, they don't get any kind of compost action. There's no good bugs in their bedding that are going to break down bacteria and keep them healthy. So you do want a good bedding pack in there, and I want to know where that's at. So I just have some simple hash marks in there that'll tell me where it's at and if I need to add more. So that's it. Hopefully this gave you a real good view of the Polyface Mini Brooder and some of the changes I made. The book is fantastic. I'm really blown away by how excellent the Polyface Designs book is. I can't say enough good about it. Everything's perfect, and I just have had a couple things with this one that I thought I wanted to see how the changes went. So I have both brooders now. We'll see if this material does last longer than the wood panel siding, and if some of the changes I made are beneficial. So thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like the content we're putting out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.